Hello, Stay in Sharp community. Raymond Ladoni here. Just wanted to make this quick video. I'm setting up a Zoom at the moment, and there's a couple of things that I like to do that just make running a group Zoom meeting much more smoother. And I guess Zoom is here to stay. It's part of our 2020 and beyond lifestyle. And I want to let everyone know that if you log into the Zoom web portal, whether you're free account or you're paying, there are a whole lot of settings that you may not know about. Now, some of the settings that I like to put on is that all people come into the room with their microphone muted. And so that prevents people from like joining on their phone while they're like doing something and it's like really noisy and everyone kind of gets really distracted by that person coming into the room 10 minutes late while they're cooking dinner, clashing pans and pots and everything. So one of the first settings I always put on is that all participants come into the meeting room on mute. But one of the other things that you may not know is that when you're in Zoom, and all these settings you can set to have as standard, so you don't have to put them on every time. But if you click the participant list, this is when you're running a meeting, not a webinar. But there's the more feature on the participants. And one of the things I also like to set up is the waiting room. And the waiting room's great, even just for having like one-on-one meetings. If you're doing meetings back to back, or sometimes people request a meeting with you and they want to test your Zoom link, and so they'll click it and they'll end up coming into a meeting that you have with someone else. So enabling the waiting room is a game changer. Now, what I do with group meetings is I have the waiting room enabled by default. So anyone who joins will go into a waiting room. Now, all I want to do is when a guest joins, you can click on their name and there'll be like an admit button and admit them in the room. So if you're expecting a guest, if you're running, say, like a webinar, or you want someone to help you with something, you can bring them into the room, have a chat to them, wait for everything to be set up, and then you can admit everyone else. And what I do at that point there is I actually turn the waiting room off. So anyone who's joining late I don't have to be distracted with letting them in. So what I actually do is I turn the waiting room off by clicking this button, and then I admit everyone. And then anyone joining after that just comes straight into the room. So that's another thing I like to do. Now, this doesn't distract me and I like it, but I like to play a sound when someone joins and leaves my room. And I also have this setting put on about this is that I can, if I'm waiting for a one-on-one meeting, I have this on. So I can, I join my Zoom room and then I can go and do something else. I can be multitasking. I could, and then in my ear, it rings and says, oh, your guest is here. It's kind of like the doorbell. And so then I can come to Zoom and let them in. And so I like that feature as well, because even with one-on-one meetings, I don't have to sit here in Zoom waiting for them to arrive because no one comes on time or they come early. So I normally just sit in my meeting room a little bit early, and as soon as they join, I get notified in my ear um, that that they're here. And this is the setting as well. Mute participants on entry, allow participants to unmute themselves. So yeah, so that's another setting that you can have as standard, so people come muted on entry. So there are a couple of little hacks that I do with Zoom that enable me to just run a group meeting or a group call with a little bit more ease. There's nothing more stressful than setting up for a webinar or something and running it as a Zoom meeting, and your guests are watching what you're doing and like fumbling around and having to like make small talk. That's a little bit awkward before starting the actual session. I have nothing wrong with opening up the room early, and in fact, we normally do that. We'll let the room open up 10 minutes beforehand, and we tend to play like some music, and we get everyone in a really good mood, and letting people in early is actually really good to build rapport and so forth. But when you're setting up and you're like, oh, just trying to set up the slides and just bear with me 1 minute, and the pressure on you slows you down because people are watching you. So this simple little hack of enabling a waiting room is really beneficial. You don't have to go in the settings and set it all up, but I prefer not to have to think about it every time. So every time I run a meeting, these settings are already put on default. So hopefully there are a couple of little hacks that can help you start using Zoom a little bit more smoother. enjoy those. And if you've got any business, marketing, life questions, feel free to ask them. I'm really enjoying making content at the moment that's super helpful. And even if it's just a one-on-one conversation to help you, other people get to see that and it helps them as well. So thanks very much, everyone. Until next time, stay sharp.